Welcome back. You're watching Morning Express. In case you're just joining us, happy Easter. We're here to bring you up to speed with the latest developments, of course, in the backdrop of the statement that was made yesterday by President Uhuru Kenyatta, or rather the political statement as well, that was made as the two handshake partners toured development projects together. And they also gave a joint presser in terms of the tax relief measures that perhaps other Kenyans were expecting in order to alleviate or cushion these 5 counties that are under lockdown in one way or the other. Professor Gitile Naituli is joining me, in studio, governance expert as well as a former NCIC commissioner. Professor, I just want your take on the state of the economy in these 5 counties. The president was sympathetic in one way. He did ask Kenyans to bear that we're trying to keep you safe, but at the same time, he did dash hopes of tax relief measures, pointing fingers to the counties to do their part. What's your take on this?
First, the counties affected by this lockdown contribute in excess of 65% to the economy, GDP. So this Machakos in Nairobi, Nakuru, Kiambu, Kajiado, that is the heartbeat of Kenya's economy. So once you have locked those counties, you have in effect locked the country because there is no access to the entire eastern if you can pass through Kiambu. No access to the entire coast if you come through Kajiado and Machakos. There is no access to the whole western, Kisumu, Busia, all those if you are not going to go through Nakuru. So there is a real problem here. Now, the tax reliefs, I want to support the president because he really can't afford.
Yes.
The economy is just too bad, so he can't afford the tax relief. That is why some of us feel very strongly that the president needs to find a middle ground in order to take care of the vulnerable section of the society. But he can't afford the tax relief. I think the economy is in a quite interesting situation. In fact, we need to pray that we don't collapse.
Yes.
Because we can very easily go from a recession into a depression, very easily, depending on the measures the state takes. So he is right on the inability to deal with the tax reliefs.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely monitor this, bearing in mind that counties were actually urged to waive on business licenses in order to enable coping with the harsh economic times. But away from
you see, that's an empty statement. Waive on business license. You have already paid the license for the year, so what are you waiving? So,
true, but some counties like Machakos have taken a couple of steps. Embu County, Nakuru, as he mentioned. Well, what do you make of these counties that seem to be sort of loosening the expectation of the small-scale traders to actually contribute?
But, you know, there isn't much you're going to do to the small-scale trader unless you can take care of the people who work hand to mouth. You see, these people need to separate the business owner who probably has some cushion already to that person who reports. Today, the Kenyans barber shop, the what do you call people who serve in the hotel? The bartender who will not be paid unless that bartender come to work, and the bartender cannot come to work because the bar is closed.
Yes.
So we need to separate these two. So the idea of waive license and all that, can we get serious? These Kenyans, they're not that stupid. They know what you are saying is nothing.
Okay.
You are not saying anything which can affect them. I think we need to get, what I'm really saying is that we want to feel this, the county government or the national government is feeling our pain, is feeling the pain of this sector. Because there is a real misery there. You know, you may actually get COVID and survive. But there is no vaccine for hunger. You will die of hunger.
Definitely. And that's, speaking of hunger, just yesterday, the government spokesperson during a press briefing said that about 1.4 million Kenyans are facing hunger, and the number is likely to rise if the expected rainfall is not enough. The question I saw most Kenyans asking is that the government has money for BBI, but I mean, so talk to us about this. It seems to be echoing some of the sentiments that Wycliffe Oparanya did mention in terms of removing these funds from the ongoing constitutional process and focusing it on COVID-19 pandemic, the desert locust and the like?
A lot of Kenyans argued for a very long time that the constitutional reform is really not a huge issue. It's not an issue at all, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because nobody is going to go angry today if we don't do this constitutional reform. Nobody will die. But if we don't focus on COVID, we don't focus on relieving the economic pangs, which is now affecting Kenyans, people will die, people will go angry, like they are saying.
Yes.
So we need the priorities now. This is where the government comes, because it's a good government. It's a government that feels the pain of its citizens. And now comes the priorities. This is what is the priority right now. Priority right now is to defeat COVID. Priority now is to resurrect this economy.
Yes.
And then we will do the constitutional reform later. The other one took 20 years.
All right.
So even if this one too can take time, we are not going to collapse. We will still be here.
Okay.
I mean, at least Kenya will still be here, so that we are able to take care of our people. But if we continue like this is what I predict. The anger and the frustration will build. Eventually will build, and in 15, 20 years it could boil over.
Okay.
But it will take that long, because Kenyans are essentially very good people. We can take a lot of beating, but they may reach the level where the beating become too much, and then we react. And when we react, it may be difficult to retract.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely continue monitoring that. Remember that statement by the government spokesperson of 1.4 million families facing starvation over drought and food shortages covered extensively on page 2 of the Standard. Make sure you grab yourself a copy. But even as we talk about that, Professor, let's shift focus to the strategy fighting COVID-19 right now. A lot of emphasis has been put on the vaccination drive ongoing in the country right now. There's an increasing demand as more and more Kenyans are turning up to get the vaccination jab, whether it's the Oxford AstraZeneca or be it the Sputnik 5. Either way, safety is paramount, and the government has actually urged this time and time again to those who fall under the phase 1 category to get their jab. Talk to us about the increasing demand, because on page 11, they highlight that Kenya may order Indian and Chinese vaccines to meet the increasing demand. This is good news, but do you foresee any challenges going forward?
I think, first of all, the uptake is increasing, and that is fantastic. But something tells me that I don't mind the Indian vaccine, but when we go to order the Chinese vaccine, there wouldn't be a challenge. People, Kenyans generally don't have faith in what the Chinese produce. And the vaccine, especially coming from China, I think if you are this government, will be a bit careful.
But it has a 79.34.
That's what they say, but tell me, our faith with the Chinese, we know, I think we have lived with the Europeans for too long.
Okay.
We trust what's come from there, which we haven't made ourselves, but when it comes to vaccines from China, that will be another story. I will be careful to spend money on Chinese vaccine.
Okay.
Now, what I would advise, though, is the government need to open the space for private entities to import these vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is very good. This Russian one, I understand, is okay.
Yes.
And the people have faith in it. So the government need to also negotiate with Russia.
Okay.
Russia can probably provide this vaccine, because when you talk to people in the streets, they tell you, I wish I can afford the Russian vaccine.
Well, more options are oncoming.
Yes.
The officials say the pre-submission discussions are already ongoing on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Even as I mentioned, the China vaccine has a 79.34 efficacy rate. So in terms of faith, I'm pretty sure most people will choose to get vaccinated either way, irrespective of that. But be that as it may, Professor, allow me to bring into the discussion Kassim Tandaza, who's just joining us via way of Zoom. He's a Matuga Member of Parliament. Kassim, a very good morning to you. Happy Easter, one way or the other. But even as you talk about that, kindly give us your take on the ongoing vaccination drive in the country. There's an increasing demand, even as officials are opening up to other options in terms of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We also saw the Sputnik vaccine that got the emergency clearance and is in sort of circulation in the country. Talk to us about this.
Good morning, Tessie. Good morning, our viewers. Happy Easter, Friday. About the vaccination, it's really interesting in the sense that people are now appreciating that they need to be vaccinated. However, if we are to go by the doses that they are, about 1 million doses out of 55 plus million people, that is a very small percentage of the availability of the vaccine, which is now being given for free. And remember, most Kenyans cannot actually afford. I was, I think last week when we were discussing this, when Bichachi talked of $70 for the Sputnik vaccine, which is done privately. For sure, most Kenyans cannot afford 7,000 plus. I think up to yesterday, I saw that there was a figure which was being put that the second in command, the DP, had spent up to 20,000 Kenya shillings for vaccination. I don't know which vaccine that was. They never mentioned it. But what worries me is now the pricing that is coming with the vaccines vis-a-vis the efficacy of the different types of vaccines. So my appeal would be for the government really to go for the one with the highest efficacy, because we don't want somebody to be vaccinated and at the end of the day, he still gets infected or he transmits the virus. Two, actually go into the issue of the pricing and see how they can get these dosages for free. The one with the highest efficacy and get it for free, and be able to set up mechanisms in terms of distribution, the logistics of that vaccination, those vaccines reaching the lowest person, the person in the villages who actually needs this vaccine, unlike currently what is happening. I'm seeing that the ones who are being vaccinated, they're the ones who actually have the accessibility to medical care. And those in the villages, like in the rural areas of Matuga and such like places, the vaccines are not there. So I think those are some of the loose ends that need to be tied up. Have the vaccine available to the lowest level, make it be free, and let's go for the vaccine with the highest efficacy.
Okay. It seems you sort of echo one story covered right here on the Daily. It's all about the ghost of COVID-19 millionaires and the Russian vaccine import. Even as the health ministry sort of disowned the Sputnik 5 deal, the circumstances in which the 75,000 doses were shipped in and cleared for use stinks of the KEMSA scandal or scam. Well, this is unfortunate, bearing in mind that 196,435 Kenyans have been vaccinated so far. Give us your take on this briefly, Kasim.
I think it is so sad, and I think I mentioned this earlier on, that somebody else had mentioned that whatever started, the virus started as a disease in China, and it came in Kenya as a business. I had earlier on got worried when the issue of vaccines started that hopefully it will not disappear, even when it is given as a grant for free, the COVAX facility giving us these vaccines. Let's hope it will not disappear, or let's hope finally it will not reappear in the form of now being in private hands and being sold. So we are back again to square one. If you've been following what happened in KEMSA, and now with the vaccine, which now is even at a higher value, because initially we were talking of masks going for about 500 shillings, finally being bought by KEMSA at 900. Now we are talking of a dosage of 7,000 shillings, 11,000 shillings. To me, this is very good business. This is very enticing to those tenderpreneurs, those who normally benefit out of this. And they're high up there. Unfortunately, nothing has happened to the KEMSA billionaires, those who actually ripped up KEMSA. Nothing has happened. Nobody has seriously been taken to court. No prosecution has taken place. We are only being fed by the suckers from the parliamentary committees who are actually interviewing these people. And I think, as I've said earlier, Parliament does not have powers to prosecute. They can only recommend. And for those who will be recommended for prosecution, the different government agencies already have the same information. So their recommendation actually, to me, does not help, because nothing stops the DCI, nothing to stop DPP to have taken these people to court. So it is unfortunate that that is the Kenya we have. And I'm always saying this, until the president of this country stops this madness of corruption, stops this madness of actually robbing the poor, robbing the dead, it is unfortunate. Let's hope 2022 comes and we actually get a CEO of serious matters handling.
Well, we'll continue monitoring the state of affairs. Of course, just as Kasim has mentioned, a couple of recommendations were given by the parliamentary committee group in terms of prosecution. Well, focus now shifts to the DCI and the prosecuting bodies to carry forth with this journey. Professor, even as we're talking about the fight against COVID-19, it's not just the national government's position to protect lives, county governments as well. Health is devolved in one way or the other. And perhaps that's why we saw them in unison actually giving us these directives in terms of the lockdown measures. But on the back page of the Daily Nation, the governors are right now demanding for release of county cash in terms of the release of the equitable share of national revenue that hasn't hit their accounts since December last year. I mean, health is devolved. How exactly should the counties pull their weight in terms of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, first of all, these counties demonstrated that they have demonstrated over and over again they can't actually handle the health docket. I don't understand how BBI missed that, because BBI should have returned that devolved unit to the national government. That's number one. Number two, you can count on us to steal from the dent. These counties are dens of corruption. They got in billions allegedly to increase their capacity in hospitals, bed capacity. Some of them, we are told the minimum should be 300 beds. Some of them have 16, others 12, others 6. There is no follow-up. There is nobody who is asking them what they did with those billions they were given in the beginning. So what is happening here, and I support Mheshimiwa Tandaza here, is that our corruption is official. That's why there is no punishment for any transgression, because it's official government policy. You steal public money and then go home and get rich. Maybe we should reach out to our traditions and curse these people and their generations, because these are really dangerous Kenyans. These are not good people. These are the people we should not be having in society. In China, they shoot them on sight, these corrupt fellows.
Okay, we definitely can't go that way due to the law, but it points to the strengths of these independent institutions in terms of prosecuting the corruption cases.
The institutions also have not exercised their independence. You see, they say that nations fail when institutions which are charged with the responsibility of enforcing the law, they are either unwilling or unable to do so.
Okay.
And this is what appears our institutions are, because Kasim said rightly that these people have all the information. The KEMSA was an outright theft, criminal theft. They have that information. The president gave them 21 days to do their job. They disappeared with the 21 days. We have never heard about them. So our so-called independent institutions, either they wait for instructions from some place, and that is why the other day we are arguing here that people should adopt the Magufuli style, if we get a Kenyan Magufuli style, of simply removing all these fellows and putting people who can take their work seriously. Because the law has given you the mandate. So executing that mandate, there is no excuse for failure to execute. Failure to execute is actually a crime by itself. It's gross criminal negligence.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely monitor the state of affairs in the counties, even as there's a joint intergovernmental health committee that has been formed by the COG and the health ministry in terms of battling the COVID-19 pandemic, coordinating the COVID-19 containment efforts, financial support as well, even as governors through the COG are actually pushing for diversion of the 4.6 billion from the World Bank in terms of grants in in order to be diverted to fight COVID-19. Gentlemen, let's shift focus to education matters. As we well know, the KCSE examination is still ongoing. Before I get your reaction on what you've observed throughout this week, let's take a look at this story that highlights matters KCSE, where two candidates in the ongoing KCSE exams and a fourth-year university student were actually arraigned in a Busia court for allegedly aiding exam cheating. The candidates were accused of smuggling smartphones containing questions and answers for the English Paper 3 and Chemistry Paper 2. Now, the university student, on the other hand, is accused of colluding with some teachers and examination officials to access the exam papers and distribute them using WhatsApp. Shadrach Miti with this report.
Day 5 of the 2020 KCSE examinations saw two candidates from Brother Nicholas Secondary School in Busia County and a fourth-year university student arraigned and charged for exam malpractice-related offences. Busia DCI boss Bernard Wamalwa confirmed that the suspects were in possession of smartphones that contained questions and answers for English Paper 3 and Chemistry Paper 2.
Ukiona vile ilikuwa imetumwa kwa simu zao, inatumwa kabla ya masaa kuanza huo mtihani. Kwa mfano, hili la Kiingereza lilikuwa limetumwa saa 1:30 katika simu ya wanafunzi. Alafu hii ya kemia imetumwa saa 2:30.
Although the three were released on a 200,000 shilling bond and a surety of similar amount, investigations are still on to establish how the university student received examination questions from a head teacher at a school in Busia town and any other suspect that could be involved.
There are now people who have started to sell fake papers, and therefore wish to warn parents, guardians and teachers not to be duped into buying or even utilizing the question papers. Our examination has not leaked and shall not leak.
Until recently, acts of exam malpractices had been restricted to outside examination rooms. However, reports that at least 8 candidates have been put under investigations for smuggling smartphones into exam rooms shows how cartels behind exam theft and leakage are stopping at nothing to achieve their goal.
A total of 15 cell phones have been confiscated from various examination centers and are in the hands of our law enforcement agencies as investigations continue to use the gadgets. Basically, what we are trying to find out is what are in the phones.
Elsewhere, 2 girls from Samburu East Sub-County are writing the examinations at Wamba Hospital as they nurse their newborn babies. And still in the same area, another candidate failed to write her examination after she developed medical complications as she gave birth. Meanwhile, Kenyan universities have been challenged to set up learning programs which are tailor-made for foreign learners to increase enrollment, which would enhance revenue generation for the institutions of higher learning. According to a report released by CPS Research International, only 6,202 foreign students are currently studying in Kenyan universities, with the University of Nairobi leading with 1,300 foreign students, followed in second place by USIU with 1,100 international students.
Supposing the School of Medicine, College of Health Sciences, set itself a target of fee-paying, high-end students from African universities to come and study medicine, they will not manage the numbers of applicants. If our students are paying 1 million for the entire course, you can get somebody from Zambia coming to pay 2 million per year, and you will not manage the numbers.
The report further points out that reputation and global ranking of universities are key in attracting foreign learners. Shadrach Miti, KT News.
And that seems to be the latest in terms of the ongoing KCSE examination. Professor Gitile Naituli, I'll start with you briefly. Your quick reaction to perhaps the issue of fake, quote-unquote, examination papers being in circulation on social media, targeting those who are quite desperate in terms of teachers and candidates. Talk to us about this.
That is unfortunate because it undermines integrity in our examination process. Our examination results, the output in terms of the children who leave our secondary schools, leave our universities, to have integrity, to access education abroad, to trust in the results of education performance, that requires examinations which are flawless, which cannot be penetrated.
Okay.
So that is really unfortunate. And but also there is something we do in this country. Of course, the children are part of us. We all seem to have a culture which leans itself to dishonesty. But still, I think we need to start trusting our children that they're intelligent enough. We start this heavy duty supervision. We stop this involving the police in supervision examinations in order to demonstrate trust. You know, there is that English adage that give a dog a bad name and then hang it.
Okay.
So the moment we declare those, the children who still examinations, they lose confidence in themselves and they start looking for a shortcut. But if we build their confidence,
okay,
then it's okay for them to approach these examinations, and then they have to know that the examination also is not the end of this. Is not the end of their lives. The talents are there.
Yes.
Not everybody can be academic. So we need to go back and create a different culture from the one we have created.
Okay, less emphasis on the examination itself, but continuous assessment, and I think that's what the CBC is trying to do. Kasim Tandaza, your take on the ongoing examinations in terms of integrity, and perhaps speak about the strategies and policies put in place to ensure that the integrity of the exam is upheld, irrespective of the cabinet secretary being at the examination center or not.
Thank you, Jesse. But before I go to the issue of the examination, just 1 second on our last discussion. Please let the health docket remain with the counties. I can give my point in another discussion, but I still think it is better handled at the counties than previously. Now, going back to the examinations that is going, it's not the students who steal exams, it is the parents. And definitely it is the same parents, it's the same adults who steal cancer, who steal vaccines, who steal anything that comes their way. So it is a whole culture of thieves. It's unfortunate that we have that culture that whatever happens, whatever exercise that goes on, there must be theft. It has to be stolen. So it is not the students, it is the parents. And it's unfortunate that we actually take the students in court, and yet a student cannot afford a smartphone. It is the parents who should actually have been taken to court. That would be my position, and that's the way that kind of
Okay, many thanks. Kasim, allow us to finalize at that particular point due to time issues. We definitely appreciate your input right here. Kasim Tandaza Matuga, Member of Parliament, joining us via way of Zoom, just adding his take on the various issues we got to discuss. Of course, Professor Gitile Naituli, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. We hope, gentlemen, you enjoy your Easter holidays, even as we urge the public to still stick to the guidelines imposed by the Ministry of Health, usilegeze kamba, because COVID-19 is still with us. Well, let's take a short break right here on Morning Express. It's Easter, so why not highlight a couple of issues arising from the entertainment sector? Brian Aseli is coming through with that and much more. Stay with us.
This is KTN News.